Welcome to this walkthrough of the transport management system we have built on Zoho Creator for neighbors. This system covers the full operational cycle, customer and vendor management, route-based pricing, trip creation, fuel tracking, invoicing, and purchase billing through Zoho Books and real-time fleet dashboards for both the CEO and operations team. Let's go through it step by step, starting with the master data that powers everything else. Before we create any trip, the system relies on a set of master data tables. We maintain customers and their contacts here. Every truck is registered with its type and current status: active, engaged, available, or under maintenance. Drivers are maintained separately and linked to trucks since a truck can be assigned a different driver on different days. We have prefed a distance master. Every from to location pair already has its distance stored, so trips don't need manual distance entry. And a truck mileage master defines average kilometers per liter for each truck type. This feeds directly into our fuel calculations later. Next we have is the customer rates module. Pricing here is never a flat number. It's driven by four criteria: the customer, the shipment code, and the from and to locations. So, for the same shipment type and the same route, two different customers can be charged two completely different rates, and that's all pre-configured here. Next, we have the vendor route rates. We have maintained the exact same structure for vendors, so when we use an outsourced truck, the system knows what we pay the vendor versus what we charge the customer. That's where our margin comes from. Now, let's come to the core flow, creating a loading request. First, the customer is selected for the shipment. Next, the shipment code. This defines the type of movement, whether it's a tank, a container, a round trip, a one way, or an empty trip. Next is selecting the location. As soon as I select the route, the total distance is pulled automatically from a distance master, no manual entry needed. Next is selecting the trucks. The moment I assign a truck, the driver's ID, name, mobile number, the truck type are automatically populated because they are linked master records not typed in. Based on the truck's type's mileage and the trip distance, allowed liters is calculated for us. This is how many liters of fuel this trip is entitled to. Trip money is what we pay the driver, is also auto-fetched automatically based on the route. If the driver ends up doing extra kilometers, I add that here under additional distance and you will see allowed liters are registered immediately. There's also an additional hour charges for any extra time en route entered manually. We track the loading date and unloading date to know exactly when the truck left and when it reached its destination. And finally, the fixed fields every trip needs: container number, shipment number, BL number, and the waybill, the proof of delivery document uploaded once the customer signs off at the destination. One important safeguard here: once a truck is assigned to a trip, it's flagged engaged and it will not show up as an option for any new loading request. This prevents two different operators from accidentally double booking the same truck. Now we can see the above selected truck will not appear in this drop down because it's already flagged as engaged. The truck only becomes available again once it reaches its destination and the unloading is confirmed. At that point, the system automatically flips its status back to available. Trucks can also be marked under maintenance, which keeps them out of rotation for servicing. Now, let's move to the dashboard. Here, I want to point towards the fleet availability KPI because we track where each truck reaches and releases. We can show fleet availability by region, Riyadh, Jeddah, Eastern region, and so on. So, when a new loading request comes in from a particular region, operations can immediately see if there's already an available truck nearby instead of dispatching one from far away, saving fuel and time. The next important feature that this application offers is Petro app fuel integration. We have integrated directly with the Petro fuel card application through an API integration built inside Zoho Creator. One click on the Create Petro trip pushes the allowed liters for that truck straight into the fuel system so the driver can fuel up against that trip. If something changes afterward, say the location was edited and allowed liters increased, we don't want the system firing an API call on every keystroke. So, there is a dedicated Update Petrol Trip button. You make your edits, verify them, then post the update in one deliberate action. Some trucks have a smaller tank capacity than the allowed liters, say 500 liters. So, a driver might need two separate fill ups. This consumption sync log shows every fuel transaction, the date, time, whichever triggered it, the trip ID, and how many liters were logged, giving full visibility into fuel usage per trip. Now, coming back to loading request. When our in house fleet capacity isn't enough for demand, we bring in outsourced trucks through vendors. The truck number is entered manually since it's the vendor's own vehicle and changes trip to trip, but the trip still gets the same trip ID structure as an in house trip, so tracking stays consistent. Vendor rates are maintained the same way customer rates are by shipment code and route, so the system knows exactly what we owe the vendor versus what we bill the customer. Now, the next feature is invoice generation, which is integrated with our finance application Zoho Books. Coming back to loading requests, invoicing here is a truck wise, not per loading request, because a single loading request can have dozens of trucks and the customer may only be ready to bill some of them. Each line item has a to be invoiced checkbox. The system checks two conditions before including a line. It must be checked and it must still be unbilled. This combination is what prevents the same trip from ever being invoiced twice. One click calls an integration function that talks directly to the Zoho books and creates an invoice for the selected items. Watch what happens in the invoice. If two line items share the same customer and the same rate, they get clubbed together into a single line with a combined quantity. If the rate is different, each gets its own line. Every invoice line also carries a reference number combining the loading request ID and its row number. For example, this a unique trip identifier so we can always trace an invoice line back to the exact loading request and truck it came from. Now, coming back to the customer module, customers are also two-way sync between creator and books. A customer created in either system automatically creates the matching record in the other, matched by the book's customer ID rather than the name, so we never get duplicate or mismatched customer records. There's also a sync book ID function for cases like bulk data imports with both single record and multi record batch options. The customer's record in books maintained in the same way as we had in a creator application. In the same way as we have generated an invoice, we can create a purchase bill. Whatever we owe our outsourced vendors needs to be recorded as an expense. That's what the purchase bill flow handles, following the same checkbox and status logic as invoicing, just using an unbilled flag on the payable side. When we select line items that involve different vendors at once, the system automatically groups them, creates a separate purchase bill per unique vendor, and clubs same rate line items together within each bill. In Zoho Books, bill numbering is automatic too. It checks the last used number in the sequence and assigns the next one so there's never a numbering clash. Now, moving to master loading request MLR, that is intra-city shipments. Loading requests handle interstate movement. For intra-city or interstate work, we use a related but separate form, the master loading request or MLR. MLR pricing works on commercial legs rather than a single rate because sometimes two tanks share one truck and each leg can carry a different customer or a different commercial rate. Some customers need 3 legs, others need 4. It's fully configurable per customer. It also carries terminal handling and lift on lift off charges. Just like the loading request, the in house only fields disable automatically the moment outsource is selected here too. The new type calculates revenue directly from whatever legs you have entered, sums them up, and that's the record's revenue. Linked is used when this MLR shares part of its load with another existing record. It pulls the revenue from that linked record, sums the relevant legs, and nets out the difference. So we never double count revenue across two related MLRs. Because LR and MLR use overlapping customers list, we tag each customer as LR only, MLR only, or both. So the drop downs in each form only ever show the customers relevant to that form. Everything else, the generate invoice logic, the clubbing, the checkpoint, and the protection works exactly the same way here as it did for loading request. Now, moving to the CEO dashboard, this is the CEO dashboard, a financial, high level view of the whole operation. We have mapped every location to a region, Riyadh, Eastern, Western, and that mapping is extensible. So adding a new region later is just one more entry, no rebuilding required. Every loading request start location rolls up into its region automatically, so we get revenue by region at a glance. Right below, that is the invoiced versus uninvoiced breakdown using the same checked and invoice status logic we saw earlier, so leadership always knows how much revenue is still sitting unbilled. And we split revenue between in house and outsourced ships with a percentage breakdown, so it's immediately clear how much of the business is running on our own fleet versus vendors. Next, we have the engine oil tracker, a separate KPI for listing all the idle trucks region wise, and each analytics of a commercial leg, along with the performance of the customers and the revenue generated. Next, we can have a glance over the billed, unbilled, and all the grand total. We can segregate it vendor wise. Now, moving to the operation dashboard. This is the operations dashboard built for the day to day running of the fleet. Maintenance is tracked automatically by kilometers. Every time a truck crosses its service interval, this resets and starts tracking again so nothing gets mixed. The idle truck listing shows region by region which trucks have reached their destination and unloaded, so dispatch can immediately reassign them instead of leaving them sitting idle. Next, we have the total fleet availability across the network. And separately, the total count of unbilled loading requests and MLRs with a grand total breakdown. Every card on this dashboard is clickable, click straight through into the relevant master data form, so operations never have to hunt through menus to get into the record they need. So, to recap, this system takes a loading request from customer and route selection all the way through automated pricing, fuel tracking via the Petro integration, dual invoicing and purchase billing pipelines into Zoho books, and finally, real-time visibility for both the CEO and the operations team. That's the full walkthrough of the Nebra's transport management system on Zoho Creator. Thank you.